Took a different way today. I did. All right. Welcome to episode 7 of Self-Discovery with me, Jaclyn Steele. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see that my hair is still wet. I have had a day, a really good day actually, just not a day where I have a lot of time to style my hair. So I'm about to, in the next hour, go get my hair done by my best gal, Lisa. And before I do that, I wanted to get in here and record a podcast episode, because this episode in particular is something that it's something that I've been working toward for the last 3 years, but something I've been really, really working toward right now here in 2020. So without further ado, I want to dive into the podcast, and there's a spider on this cord. There's a spider on that cord. Yeah. Anyway, this is how I'm going to start the podcast for the podcast listeners. Hi, everyone. You are listening to another episode of Self-Discovery with Jaclyn Steele, and today's topic centers around minimalism. Before I dive in, I want to remind you that I'm doing a YouTube blitz right now where I'm doing 20 videos in 29 days. So if you want to check that out, please visit youtube.com/official Jaclyn Steele. So today's topic, which I already mentioned, centers around minimalism. And before I dive into why I'm moving toward minimalism, I want to go over what minimalism is. And according to moneyunder30.com, minimalism is ... Minimalism is all about living with less. This includes less financial burdens, such as debt and unnecessary expenses. That definition is so boring. So I kept looking, and on the Minimalists of theminimalist.com, which I love those guys. They also have a podcast. They have a much better and deeper definition, and it is this. Minimalism is a tool that can assist you in finding freedom. Freedom from fear, freedom from worry, freedom from overwhelm, freedom from guilt, freedom from depression, freedom from the trappings of the consumer culture we've built our lives around. Real freedom. That doesn't mean there's anything inherently wrong with owning material possessions. Today's problem seems to be the meaning we assign to our stuff. We tend to give too much meaning to our things, often forsaking our health, our relationships, our passions, our personal growth, and our desire to contribute beyond ourselves. Want to own a car or a house? Great, have at it. Want to raise a family and have a career? If these things are important to you, then that's wonderful. Minimalism simply allows you to make these decisions more consciously and more deliberately. Isn't that so juicy? I feel like that's my definition of minimalism, and moving toward freedom. Oh, that just feels so good, and that feels like exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. So I'm moving toward minimalism, and I'm going to give you a little bit of the background story and the setup really for why I feel like this is so important to me and why I want to do it. So in 2019, as many of you already know if you listened to episode 2 of this podcast or read my ebook, 2019 was one of the hardest, if not the hardest, year of my life. It was emotionally gruesome, physically exhausting, and financially terrifying. All these circumstances, all these varying events converged to squeeze me out of a version of myself that was stuck in pain and trauma. And this process was so hard, but the result was worth every moment of discomfort. Because my healing ushered in a much bigger, deeper, and even more honest version of myself. And as I'm getting more and more comfortable in this evolution and this new me, I'm diving deeper and deeper into what makes me feel aligned with my own life. Alignment is one of my highest values. And for me, alignment means that my heart, my mind, my body, my spirit, my actions, my ethos is all coming from the same authentic place inside of me. My words and actions line up. My dreams and daily habits line up. My relationships and my values line up, etc. The more and more aligned I become, the more content and whole I feel in life. However, at the end of last year, I noticed a leak in my newly built ship. And damn, this was a leak I had in my old ship too. So it's something that I have not healed from, but am very keenly aware that I have not healed from it. And that is my propensity toward anxiety. And my anxiety really started to show up in college when I realized I would be graduating with almost $100,000 in debt. And it got worse when I realized after graduation and the payments came due that every single life decision that I would be making for the foreseeable future would be affected by this massive debt. I felt trapped at 22 years old. And to soothe my anxiety, I turned to shopping. Apparently, the universe really wanted me to learn some money lessons at a young age. And fortunately, to this day, I have never missed a student loan payment. But essentially, any extra money that I made that didn't go to my living expenses or my student loan debt, I spent on stuff. I struggled with using shopping as an anti-anxiety tactic for most of my 20s. When I started realizing what I was doing and that this pattern of habits was a temporary relief but a long-term burden, I knew something had to change. I started to really look at my debt, and I started really looking at my stuff, and I started really looking at myself. And when I took stock of what was surrounding me, I realized that most of it was totally meaningless. That's where the hardship and the healing of this past year shines through so acutely. I have new eyes with which I see the world. I now saw all my stuff as a roadblock between where I was and the way I wanted to be living on a daily basis. So I started to take action toward a new way of doing things, a way that feels so much more aligned to the person I am now and the person I want to continue to expand into. I want freedom, y'all. Freedom. Freedom from financial burdens, freedom from having to care for a bunch of things that will never love me back, freedom from constantly managing clutter, freedom from that incessant compulsion to soothe my anxiety with buying something that I don't really even like that much, freedom from a cycle that keeps Americans in a state of always feeling like we can't quite catch up. I've watched the documentary Minimalism twice, and I absolutely love it. I've also watched show after show on tiny living, and I've watched the Marie Kondo method and have predictably teared up when people talk about how awesome they feel after ridding themselves of their unnecessary burdens. And this year, I decided to move toward this way of living myself. When I look back on the last 3 years, I realize that the whole time, my little ship has been pointing in this direction, but this year it really, really set sail. Which brings me back to my propensity toward anxiety and my desire to plug this hole in my little ship. In many ways, minimalism is my new, healthy way of healing my anxiety, and I want to explain further. Number 1. So much of my anxiety is money related, and with minimalism, you spend less because you only buy what you need or what actually brings you joy. It has turned me into a much more conscious consumer. I'm not buying things just to buy them and then feeling guilty later. And so far on this path, when I actually have had to buy something, I feel so much more joy around it because I know it is something I actually need and will appreciate. When I hand over my card at the checkout, instead of a wash of guilt, I feel a sense of ease, knowing that I'm making a responsible and conscious decision. And my bank account is looking a lot healthier too. Number 2, another big cause for my anxiety was the state of my home. It has for many years now felt like I'm constantly moving and managing clutter every single week. I'm such a creative and empathic soul, and when my space feels out of order, everything inside of me feels out of order too. So moving toward minimalism and going through every room in my home has been so cathartic. I still have places to tackle, but I've gotten rid of so much stuff that I truly don't give a shit about and made room for physical and mental space. Tidying up now takes a couple of minutes instead of a couple of hours because everything has a purpose and a space. Cooking is easier because my kitchen is organized. Laundry is streamlined. I only have to do a couple loads a week because I have so much less clothing, and actually putting laundry away, which was always the worst part of doing laundry for me, is so much easier now because my closet is organized. Moving toward minimalism at home has revolutionized my daily quality of life. Number 3, another cool byproduct of minimalism is conscious consumption. Because I'm buying less, I want to buy better. And I've been learning about fast fashion and working conditions and fair trade and products that are damaging people and our environment. I still have so much to learn on all of these subjects, and if you have great resources in this area, I definitely want to hear from you, so please drop me a comment. I'm excited about educating myself on all of this because it feels so empowering to consume consciously. Number 4, in addition, consuming less and consuming more consciously is reducing my carbon footprint. There is less waste leaving my home, and the things that I bring in are on the whole more environmentally friendly and sustainable. I still have much room for improvement here, but taking steps in this direction is actively helping me reverse the damage that I've done to the planet, and this makes me feel so damn good. I want to be part of the change that we see in this world. And if we start taking these baby steps together, even if they feel like little tiny baby steps, when we do them together, we can make a giant difference and take leaps toward healing the planet that does so much good for us. Number 5, and this is certainly not a conclusive list because I still have a lot of journeying to do in minimalism. But for now, minimalism is helping me to focus more on what's important in my life. Instead of managing clutter, I have more room for creating. Instead of sweating over my bank account, I'm sweating in a yoga class. Instead of squeezing in time to do load after load of laundry, I'm tossing the tennis ball to my dog Shiloh during my lunch break. This way of life feels wild and free. It feels less tethered and more alive. And it feels like me. If you have questions or comments about this episode, feel free to reach out to me. And I'm going to end the content portion of this episode with a question. How would you feel if you had more freedom in your life? You have been listening to the podcast Self-Discovery with me, Jaclyn Steele. For more information or to submit a question, please visit jaclynsteeleinternational.com/selfdiscoverypod. To contact me directly, please reach out via Instagram at Jaclyn Steele, JACLYNSTEELE. And to watch some super fun video content, visit me on YouTube at youtube.com/official Jaclyn Steele. Go be big today. I'm sending you love and light and peace. And until next time, thank you for listening.